Side-scrolling shooters are quite a popular genre in the arcades, and even with many consoles seeing ports of these iconic titles being released over the generations. And Darius, released in 1997 originally in the arcade in Japan, and it would later be ported to the PlayStation in 1998, would actually be the fourth entry in the Darius series of scrolling shooters, but would be the first game to make full use of three-dimensional polygonal graphics, but would still play from the standard 2D perspective seen in the original titles, but makes much improvements to the gameplay, weapons and features that wouldn't have been accessible in the original games. There are a total of 15 levels or zones in the game, and the game has a multitude of different endings, with players being able to branch off to different levels or paths throughout their journey. Each level will allow the player to choose between two alternative routes, and this will determine how an ending will play out. And in some cases you will end up revisiting a similar level, but there will be subtle changes with regards to enemy patterns and even some of the boss attacks and how they interact with the environment. There would also be an upgraded version of Darius that would add a beginner mode, which would make it easier for entry-level players or beginners to get involved with the game. But the game would end after a limited amount of levels, so it would require the player to increase the difficulty in order to access everything that the game has to offer. Essentially, this game acts as a prequel to the overall story in the series, but contributes many unique features that weren't seen in previous titles. And with regards to rankings, the game was well received in the magazines due to its gameplay, various dynamics, very nice use of visuals, weapons and upgrade systems, often considered by many to be considered as one of the greatest side-scrolling shooters of all time. The game did get a re-release on modern systems in 2021 on the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 4 with upgraded HD visuals. The game itself can also be found on the Steam marketplace for those that don't have access to a console, so they can play the updated version in all its glory. So each stage gives you a variety of different backdrops and enemy threats to deal with. You also have to make sure you have to collect as many items as you can to upgrade your weapons, abilities and stats, but also to increase your score levels while trying to get to the end so that you can defeat many of the game's bosses and altercations so that you can proceed and progress through the story. And for its time, the game visually was a delight to behold in many regards, and that's the funny thing, a lot of these side-scrolling shooters, they genuinely were very, very good looking games to begin with. They're one of the very few titles, in many cases, when you look back at the early 2D iterations, the transition to 3D felt almost seamless, but you had the added benefit of having a lot of cinematic elements with regards to movie quality intros and video sequences that added so much more depth and realism to the overall experience. And especially this went down well with regards to playing games in the arcade, as this is definitely where you would have got the best experience pretty much. But for those that couldn't access the arcade version, playing it on the consoles was equally as good of an experience in many ways. Now there are quite a number of different shooters like this on the PlayStation and on multiple consoles, but it really just depends on your own preferences and play styles. Like you had Iron Hander that was released by Squaresoft in 1997 also, and that too is a hidden gem on the system that many people don't really know about, and the game is often overlooked. And like this, it's also another beautiful looking title, often considered to be one of the best looking games on the PlayStation. So they definitely hold a high standard with regards to the visual elements of these games, as they do get it right in that respect. But they are tricky and they are tough, and in fairness they don't appeal to every style of player. There are players out there that will enjoy this fast, frantic paced element to it, but there are some that probably won't, so it really just depends on your own preferences and what you're into. But if you do enjoy these games, this is definitely one to have a look at, and I'm sure there are many fans out there that have played it in the past. But I would love to know your thoughts of this game if you have played it yourself, and what do you think of it overall. And are you a fan of these type of shooters that were released on the system, or did you play any of these versions in the arcades? So be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell to be updated of future videos. And if you would like to see more content around other types of games similar to this that were released on the PlayStation, then you can check out the playlist on screen to see more of those games in action. And as always, keep those gaming memories alive.